All right, so today I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on the new Canon R6 Mark II. And so right at the beginning of this video, yes, I think that it's worth the upgrade if you are a working professional and you can pay for the camera with one or two jobs. If you can sell your R6 and you can, pay off the camera in one or two jobs, absolutely you should go for it. The upgrades on this camera, even though they are kind of like mid-level upgrades, I still think that they're fantastic. And so there's a couple things though. I watched all of the release videos, and I even watched one or two videos today about the R6, and I have some thoughts. Okay, it's a fantastic camera. I think you guys should buy it. I think it's a great camera. All camera releases that come out now are great. Okay, but let's get into some things. So one of the big selling points about this this R6 Mark II is that it shoots 4K 60 with no crop. Big deal. Big deal to some people. If that is something that's important to you, great. Go out, buy the camera. It's a great upgrade. But it's not that important to a lot of people. In fact, I am still part of the camp that says that you can't tell 4K from 1080p when you sprinkle it in, in videos. I just don't think that you're going to use the 4K 60 as much as people think they are. If you're a wedding photographer, if you're Matt Johnson, yeah, you're going to use that. But I just don't think that the regular everyday people are going to use it as much as they think they do. Here's something that was important to me that Canon left out of that camera. When you turn the camera on, you put it in video mode and you just shoot in standard, right? If you're someone who doesn't shoot log, who's not great at color grading, when you just put it in standard, it's only shooting in 8-bit color. And that's a big deal to me. That's a really big deal. What you're looking at right now is just standard. I don't do a lot of color grading or color correction. I might add some contrast. I might, take or add away some saturation, but that's it. I don't do a lot. The standard looks really good, and the Sony a7 IV really has a really good profile and S-Cine tone that looks great. And the only reason that I'm comparing this camera to the a7 IV right now is because they're the same price. And then I heard someone at release say that they didn't think that they could recommend the Sony a7 IV over the Canon R6 because of the 4K 60 thing. And then another thing that they talked about was the 40 frames per second. Oh, before we move on to the frames per second, another thing that they left out of the Canon R6 is the all-eye codec. And here's why that's important. I know a lot of people are going to say that that's not really that important because even though it, oh, I almost lost my mic, even though it shoots in H.265, the new M1s and M2, MacBooks and studios or whatever can control that codec, and it's not going to be so hard to edit those files anymore. But most people don't have those M2s or M1s. Most people, it's going to be easiest for most people to edit the all-eye. But most people don't have the MacBooks or the M1s or the M2s. So if you're going to just, what's going to end up happening is you're going to make people, force people to go out and buy MacBooks or, trudge through this really hard codec that's hard to edit. And so that was another thing that I wanted to bring up. There's no all-eye. And that's kind of a big deal to me because I don't have an M1 and I don't plan to buy one anytime soon. And if I'm correct, I don't even know if you can edit the H.265 in DaVinci Resolve. I think there's an issue with that. So I don't want to put a pin in that, and then we'll talk about it. Anyway, it's only 24 megapixels. And if we're talking apples and apples and we're saying all things are equal, the a7 IV has 33 megapixels. The a7 IV has 33 megapixels. And I've said this before, I'll say it again, I'll continue to beat this drum. Megapixels matter, especially if you're someone like me who does like landscapes and cityscapes where you really want that clarity. And sometimes, like I said, even though you should get it right in camera, sometimes you may want to crop in. You may want to have those extra megapixels. So those are important. 40 frames per second in electronic shutter. but it has a ton of rolling shutter. This is not a stacked sensor. The sensor it's got the Bion's X chip, I think is what it is, but it's not fast enough for those readouts. And if you're someone who is shooting sports, if you're someone who is shooting fast moving action, whatever it is, you're gonna deal with rolling shutter. The balls are gonna warp, the bats are gonna warp, the tennis rackets are gonna warp. I've never shot cars, but I don't know, whatever. It's gonna be a lot of rolling shutter. And a lot of those reviewers tried to talk it down and say that it's still usable, but I don't think that anybody who's working as a professional sports photographer would tell you, yeah, go out and buy this R6 and use an electronic shutter to be able to take these photos. They're trying to sell it as this really big thing, and for me, it wouldn't be usable. And then the other thing that kind of gave me like the ick is that this person who said this, no shade to this creator, I love him, I love this creator, I'm not trying to shade anybody, is that in his release video, he was talking up this 40 frames per second. 90% of his work is portraits. I don't know that you need 40 frames per second when shooting portraits, ever. Anyway, let's move on. The biggest thing that they didn't correct is that kind of like wobbling that you see when people are vlogging with these RF cameras. One thing that one person said is that it's not as bad as the R5, but it's still not good. The thing about that is that the R5, it was really bad on the R5. That wobble is so bad on the R5. And so saying that it's better than the R5 still doesn't mean that it's good. And just remember, yes, the R6 Mark II is a better camera, has more features than the A7 IV, but it's a full year newer, right? It's a full year newer. This camera came out a whole year ago as of the release of this Mark VI. So take that for what it's worth. Okay, and then the other thing, these cameras are the same price, right? $2,500. People who shoot Sony, if they're upgrading, they're gonna choose the A7 IV. People who are upgrading, if they shoot Canon, are going to pick the Mark VI. It's a fantastic camera. It's got a lot going for it, but there's an asterisk, all right? If we are comparing things, all things equal, if we're comparing all things equal, then we have to talk about the lens situation. Let's say you are talking to someone who is not in the Sony system and they're not in a Canon system right now, and they're saying to you, which one of these cameras should I go out and buy? And I can only buy, just say I can only buy one lens. All things equal, right? We're not talking about adapting. We're saying they want to buy this camera. And listen, I'm not saying that adapting your old EF lenses is bad. There's a ton of people out there who are still adapting lenses. Great, do that. Be that person. Those lenses are fantastic. But if we're saying all things are equal, if you go out and buy the A7 IV and you buy the best 24-70 that you can get, which I think is the G Master version 2, you're gonna spend $4,500. If you buy this R6 and you go out and get the best available 24-70, the RF one, you're gonna spend $4,900. So you're already $400 more expensive if you buy into the Canon system. Here's where the elephant enters the room. Canon doesn't allow third-party lens makers to make lenses for them right now. That's a big deal, because if you buy into the Sony system right now and you say to yourself, well, I don't have money for the best, what's my second option? You can get a Tamron 28-75 G2 right now for $900, brand new, but as Hugh Bronstein would say, hold that thought. The Sigma, which is another fantastic 24-7, you can get for $1,100. So that's going to cost you $3,600 to buy into that system. You can get the Rokinon for $800. All of that adds up, right? That's all cheaper. But here's where it really comes to a head. Let's say you buy into the A7 IV, right? Let's say you buy A7 IV. Remember, The R6 in the 24 to 70 is $4,900. If you buy a used 17 to 28 Tamron 2.8, a used 28 to 75 Tamron 2.8 version 1, and a Tamron 70 to 180 2.8, all of those are fantastic lenses. Let's say you buy those all used. You're gonna pay $900 for the 70 to 180, you're gonna pay $700 for the 17 to 28, and $700 for the 28 to 75, which would bring you to a grand total of $4,800. So you could buy a body and a Trinity for $100 less than you would pay for an R6 in a 24 to 70. That's a big deal. And if we're comparing these two cameras, and we're asking ourselves which camera is going to give us the most value, it's no question that the Sony a7 IV is still that camera. They're both fantastic cameras, and yes, the R6 is a better camera, but when we're talking about the most value that you're going to get from either system, that answer is still the Sony a7 IV. That's all I have. Those are my thoughts. I'm Jamil. This has been a boy named Jamil. We'll see you guys in the next video. Let me know if you're interested in this monitor. And then let me know your thoughts about everything I said in this video down in the comments. I know you will. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.